The story starts in 1944 during World War II. A US Marine named Allison is lost at sea after a battle with the Japanese in the Pacific. After floating in the ocean for many days, he finally finds land and arrives on an island called Tuasiva. He is careful when entering the island because he worries that Japanese soldiers might be there. Allison looks around the island and finds no one. He thinks the island is empty, so he stops worrying about the soldiers. While exploring, he goes to a church and is surprised to see a beautiful nun sweeping the floor. He can't believe that there is a woman living alone on the island. The nun is scared at first, but when she sees that Allison is an American soldier, she tells him her name is Sister Angela. She explains that she was left behind by other missionaries who went to Fiji. Allison asks if he can stay and rest in the church. Later, Allison wakes up and sees Angela praying. He quickly puts out all the fires because he is scared that the Japanese might find them. Angela feels sorry for not thinking about it and gives Allison some food. After eating, Allison asks Angela for a cigarette, but she only has a pipe that belonged to Father Phillips, who passed away a few days ago. Angela then tells Allison that she came to the island with Father Phillips. They arrived just 4 days ago to look for another priest named Father Ryan. They searched all the nearby islands and found no one. When they tried to return to their ship, it had already left them behind, so they got stuck on the island. The next day, Allison takes Angela to look for food. Luckily, the island has plenty of food, so they easily find clean water and fruit. While Allison is making spears to catch fish, he hears a wild boar nearby. He follows the sound and finds the boar living in a hidden cave. However, Allison can't kill it because his bamboo spear isn't strong enough. Soon after, Angela spots a turtle floating in the sea and tells Allison. With a rope and a raft, Allison goes out to catch the turtle and asks Angela to help. He catches the turtle, but suddenly the turtle pulls him into the sea and he falls off the raft. Angela gets very scared. The turtle keeps pulling Allison underwater, but luckily, he manages to get back to the surface and also brings the turtle with him. While eating the turtle meat, Allison says that with all the fruit and food on the island, they could probably survive for years, but they can't stay there forever and wait for someone to rescue them. So, Allison plans to sail 300 miles on a raft to reach Fiji, where Angela can continue her work as a nun. Even though it sounds like a crazy idea, Angela agrees to try it, and they decide to go on this risky journey. Allison starts fixing the raft, while Angela weaves the sails for it. As they talk, Allison tells Angela he doesn't understand why a beautiful woman like her would want to be a nun. He always thought nuns were old and not beautiful. Angela replies that being a nun makes her happiest, just like how Allison is happy being a Marine. Suddenly, a Japanese plane flies over the island, and they quickly hide. Allison thinks it's a Japanese plane checking the area and that it might come back. He decides to take Angela to the cave he found earlier to stay the night, because he's worried the Japanese might return. What Allison feared happens when Japanese bombers come back and bomb the island. Angela is terrified by the explosions, but Allison reassures her, saying the noise won't harm them. Once the bombing stops, Allison goes to see what's left, but the attack has destroyed everything, including their food and the rafts they were building to sail. Allison feels hopeless after the bombing, knowing their only chance now is for American soldiers to rescue them. Soon after, Japanese ships approach the island, and they send in a group of soldiers to take control. Allison realizes the island is no longer safe, so they have to hide in the cave. As the Japanese soldiers search the island, they get closer to the cave where Allison and Angela are hiding. Thankfully, luck is on their side as the soldiers eventually leave, thinking the island is empty. Angela then shares a risky idea with Allison. She wants to surrender to the Japanese, hoping they will treat her with respect and not harm her. Allison disagrees, worried that something worse could happen to her. He reassures her, promising to find food for both of them. While Allison is out looking for fish, he suddenly comes across 3 Japanese soldiers on patrol. He quickly hides behind a rock, and the waves help cover him, so the soldiers don't notice him. He safely returns to the cave and shares the fish with Angela. However, Angela finds the raw fish unpleasant and apologizes to Allison, saying she can't eat it like that. Allison started to worry about her health. Even though he knew it was dangerous, he decided to steal food from Japanese soldiers. He felt he had no choice but to do this so Angela could eat and survive. Allison crept up to the area where the soldiers were. He was able to get past a very tight security post, but it was difficult because soldiers were still gathered inside the barracks, keeping watch. He waited for the right moment when the soldiers wouldn't see him. Allison quickly took some food to bring back to his hidden cave. However, Angela is upset because he left her alone and made her worry. For the first time, Allison feels cared for, and he starts developing feelings for her. The next day, Angela finds a flower and a cone that Allison made for her. She happily accepts the gift, but explains that she cut her hair short as a sacrifice when she took her first vows as a nun. Allison asks if a nun can break her vows and live like other women. Angela explains that a nun has 5 years after her first vows before making the final vows, which fully commit her. She also tells him that next month, she'll be taking her final vows. Allison feels relieved to learn that Angela hasn't made her final vows yet, thinking there might still be a chance for them. Soon after, a loud explosion shakes the air, signaling a battle in the Pacific. Allison hopes that the Americans win, hoping the Japanese will leave the island. The next day, he cautiously exits the cave to check, and is relieved to find that the Japanese have gone. Both Angela and Allison are filled with joy, as they no longer need to hide. They also discover that the Japanese left behind plenty of food. As they continue talking, Angela asks why someone as handsome as Allison isn't married yet. Taking the opportunity, Allison opens up and tells Angela that he loves her deeply and wants to marry her. He pleads with her to not take her final vows. Angela, however, gently declines his heartfelt confession, explaining that she is already engaged to God through her vows, and that her final vows will bind her in a sacred marriage. Allison, though deeply disappointed, understands her position. The next day, he approaches her with genuine humility, apologizing for his earlier words and asking her to forget them. He reflects on their commitments, acknowledging that, like her, he too is bound, devoted, in his own way, to the Marine Corps. That evening, Angela discovers a bottle of Japanese wine in a sack of rice and offers it to Allison. After tasting it, Allison continues to drink, eventually getting drunk and acting erratically. Angela tries to stop him, suggesting he eat something, but Allison ignores her. His words, slurred by the alcohol, start to offend her as he questions why a beautiful woman like her would choose to become a nun, calling nuns old and unattractive. Trying to distract him, Angela invites him to play Japanese chess, but Allison doesn't calm down. He even compares them to Adam and Eve, saying they are meant to stay on the island forever, as no one will ever rescue them. Angela, overwhelmed by his harsh words, starts to cry in fear. Allison, feeling guilty, tries to comfort her, but this only makes her more frightened, and she runs into the jungle, ignoring the pouring rain. The following day, Allison discovers Angela unconscious, burning with a high fever. In a panic, he carries her back to the hut, but his relief is short-lived as he spots Japanese ships once again nearing the island. Fearing for their lives, he swiftly moves her to the cave for safety. Her condition worsens, and he wraps her in his own clothes, desperately trying to keep her warm. Through her delirium, Angela murmurs incoherently, and Allison's worry deepens with each passing moment. Determined to save her, Allison embarks on another perilous mission to steal supplies from the Japanese camp. While the soldiers are busy training, he silently slips into one of their tents and grabs blankets. But just as he is about to leave, a soldier unexpectedly enters and catches sight of him. Without hesitation, Allison silences the soldier with a dagger, swiftly disposing of the body by tossing it into the sea to avoid raising suspicion. The next day, Angela wakes up in the cave and is surprised to find herself undressed. Allison explains everything to her, apologizing for scaring her and making her run into the jungle. Angela thanks him and says she believes he would never hurt her. Angela admits she ran not because of Allison, but because she was scared that they might never leave the island. Meanwhile, the Japanese find the dead soldier's body and looking for whoever did it. Allison and Angela stay quiet as the soldiers get closer to the cave. A soldier discovers the cave entrance and orders a grenade to flush them out. Just as the situation grows more desperate, a massive explosion shakes the air. It's an American airstrike. Allison, filled with excitement, turns to Angela and urges her to watch as the American planes rain destruction on the Japanese soldiers. The battle goes on all night, so they have to stay in the cave. Allison realizes that American ships won't be able to land because of the Japanese guns. He decides to take the risk and disarm the weapons himself. Even though he gets hurt a little, he manages to make it safe for the Americans to land. The following day, American ships approach the island and deploy their forces. As Angela tends to Allison's wounds, he knows the moment has come to say goodbye. Though they can never be together, Allison expresses his gratitude to Angela for everything, wishing her nothing but happiness. Angela, in turn, thanks him and assures him she will always remember the man who honored her and cared for her so deeply. Not long after, American soldiers find them and provide medical assistance to Allison. After enduring weeks of survival, they are finally rescued.